Hey, it's Brandon from electrIQ. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create content using an example for one of our clients, actually a coffee client. So I'm going to walk you through how to do the keyword research, how to do the content ideation, select basically a main keyword you're trying to get that content to rank for, and then we're going to show you how to do some competitive research and utilize a tool like SEMRush to properly craft and create the content. So let's get started. First, we have a list of content ideas that we've compiled from looking at competitor keywords and Googling them, essentially. So we're going to go with what is the coffee belt as our example. So let's take that. And drop it into month 2 content. What is the coffee? Now that we know we're going to be writing about the coffee belt and we want to rank for the coffee belt, the first thing that we can do is search just on Google. So you don't necessarily need SEMrush for this. It's just beneficial, as we'll see later on in the video. But look up coffee belt. Okay, so this is what ranks first. Let's open that up. Let's open what ranks second. Let's open what ranks third. And you sort of get the gist of it. You should be looking at the top 10 ranking articles to see what they're doing to sort of stylize your content in the same fashion that they are. Google is basically giving you a roadmap for what type of content you need to create in order to show up onto the first page. Obviously, we're not going to be copying them. What we want to do is take what they did and do it better. So we want to build off of the content that's already showing up on the first page. So real quickly, as this loads, you can go through and take a look at, and this is if you don't have the software, you can take a look at some of the keywords they're using. You can see how they're bolding some of those specific semantically related keywords. And you can go through and take a look at this for all of the different pieces of content. Where can we find the coffee belt? That's probably a header that we should include in ours. The most famous countries and the coffee. I would probably change that a little bit and say the most famous coffee countries, but it depends on what the keyword research is showing us. And you can see how they properly use, I'm going to assume this is an H2, then this is an H3, and how they sort of delineate through a list. And then they go back to H2. And it's always nice to sort of phrase some of these headers as questions because that's how people are searching. Now let's get into SEMRush. So we know we're going to write about the coffee belt. What we're going to do is go to SEO Content Template. We're going to enter our target keywords here. So I always put in coffee because that's like the #1 keyword. Obviously, that's sort of a pie in the sky keyword where we're not necessarily ever going to rank for that per se. That's super broad. That'd be like trying to rank for shoes if you're a shoe company. Companies like Nike and Adidas own that domain. Trying to compete with them on that level is not only unrealistic, but it's sort of a waste of time and effort. You're actually going to see more value for competing for long tail keywords that have a more specific user search intent and then typically also lead to a higher propensity to purchase. Because in the case of Nike as an example, if I'm searching for red running shoes and I'm served a red running shoe in those search results, I already know that I want a red running shoe. As opposed to if I just type shoes, I am browsing all over the internet, I haven't made up my mind at all. But if I type in red running shoes and you offer that, then they're going to be more likely to purchase because they already have that intent to purchase just by their search behavior. So let's just put in coffee because it's good to always include that. And you can hit enter, and then obviously we want to show up for coffee belt. And we'll do what is the coffee belt and bean belt because I've seen it referred to in both ways. We'll leave it as United States desktop, but you can get very specific. So if we were doing this for a client who needs local SEO help, we would select the region, we would select the city, we can select desktop or phone. Now create SEO template. Basically what this is doing is going to analyze the top 10 pieces of content on Google for these particular keywords that we entered. Which is why I say you can technically do this yourself, not as well as SEMRush, but if you want to go and Google whatever keyword you're trying to rank for, compile that list, pull out what is similar in each one, then you can kind of get to what this is. Here you'll see they pulled the top 10 results for each one. This is what's really important, the semantically related keywords. They see this a lot in the pieces of content that are showing up on the first page for those 4 keywords that I entered. So we want to make sure that we include these semantically related keywords in our content. Something that's nice is it'll show backlinks from domains that we should try and acquire based on the competitors. It'll also give you a readability score and a recommended text length. We always try to shoot for more than this because Google typically prefers longer form content. Then you can get a quick overview down here of what's showing up on the first page. And it'll highlight particular keywords. And then you get some basic recommendations down here as well. So you can use this, which is fine, but what's best is if you use the real-time content check. So this will give you a score as you write and tell you from a readability, SEO, originality, and tone of voice perspective how well you're doing. So readability, using your target keywords, adding all those recommended keywords, it'll automatically let you know if you're using them or not. Your tone of voice, your originality, which is super important because obviously we don't want to be copying from people. And you can just start writing in here. Another thing you can do is actually send it to Google Docs, and that's super helpful because then you're able to create the content in Google Docs as opposed to creating it within here. So let me show you how to do that really quickly. So you can open up a blank Google Doc, and I already have the SEMRush plugin installed, but in your case, you will have to install it. And where it's going to show up is in add-ons here. So let's give it a title. Let's call it Coffee Belt. You can also export it to a Word doc if you want. It basically just spits this out in like a 15-page document, so I wouldn't recommend it actually. Now we're going to click on Add-on. You're going to click on SEMRush SEO Writing Assistant. If you don't have it, you're just going to click on Get Add-ons and then just search it and add it. It's very simple. So we're going to show. It'll pop up over here. You'll log into your account, and you can enter your target keywords. What it typically does is you will be able to send it from here, actually. In this case, for some reason, it's actually... Now, in order to send it to Google Docs, what you're going to do is, you know how we were in SEO Content Template? You're actually going to go to SEO Writing Assistant, and you'll see all of these that we've pulled up here. And you can just click on Open in Google Doc, and it'll take you there. Another way you can do it is if you're just in Google Docs, into your target keywords here, coffee, what is coffee belt, what is the bean belt, and we'll say coffee belt, and then you can click on Get Recommendations, and it'll just prepare it within the doc here for you. So either way you want to do it, doesn't really matter. I actually find it easier since I've done it a fair amount. I don't really need all the stuff in SEMRush. I can just input the keywords into the Google Doc itself and go from there. Google Docs is really nice because when you're creating content in here, it'll actually transfer over the style to WordPress or Shopify or whatever it may be. So you're going to use heading 1 for your title, which will say, what is the coffee belt? Now actually, since we've seen coffee belt and bean belt a lot, something we can do is go into SEMRush and see, okay, which one gets higher search volume and which one's more competitive versus less competitive. So we're going to type in coffee belt and just search it. And this is going to give us just a general overview of the keyword. There's free tools you can use like kwfinder.com. That'll give you a brief rundown. So you'll see coffee belt, it's only got 720 searches a month. It's not crazy. Cost per click, non-existent. Now, if we look at bean belt, we'll see what the difference is, and then that'll decide what we're going to put in our title. And obviously, we're going to use these interchangeably throughout the article, but what goes into the H1 is sort of going to determine the direction of the piece. See, bean belt has almost no search terms. So we're going to title it the coffee belt. Something along those lines. So then in here, you'll put a brief intro to the coffee belt using keywords like what is the bean belt and bean belt. You want to make sure you include all of your main keywords in that first paragraph. Then we'll add an H2, and this is something I like to do for a lot of pieces, is then say, what is the coffee belt? Or ask some sort of a leading question. In this case, it might be, what countries are a part of the coffee belt? And then you can see that the recommended keywords here are already sort of lending us to this. I typically like to map out some of the content before I actually even begin to do the research. So you can see here that you can just infer stuff from what's showing up in the other articles. You can say, typically, countries in the coffee belt share a set So you can see here, we've already knocked out 5 of the keywords that we wanted to include. So rich soil and mild temperatures with lots of rain and shaded sun. Or typically, see if there's anything else here. Or typically what coffee plants thrive. Obviously, we can work on like the grammar and making this a little bit more sophisticated here, but you get the point. Now, from that, I'm sort of done. I really have nothing else. I don't know anything else about the coffee belt. So now it's time to do some research. And you'll see here that it'll actually keep you from using too much of your target keywords, or too many of your target keywords. So already it's a little bit saturated because we don't have the rest of our piece yet to balance out the total density of that keyword within the content, which will obviously come because we're going to make this around 1,200 words. So now we can go into here. You can see sort of what they're doing. So they actually have a slider here. You can see, oh, okay, the coffee belt or bean belt is actually right here, band around the Earth in between the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer. So we actually include that up here. So what is the coffee belt? The coffee belt is an area, and let's see how they phrase it again, around the Earth in between the tropics of Capricorn, around the Earth in between the tropics of Capricorn. This would be a good time to actually include a picture. So we would develop some original content that would show where the coffee belt actually is so that we can include it in here, because this would be really easy to look at from a visual standpoint. But you can say, you can think of it as a band around the middle of the Earth that is home to some of the best coffee producing countries in the world. Then we can even throw in keywords like bounded by the tropics. These countries provide the ideal environment for the coffee plant to grow. Now, something I would want to know, based off these keywords I'm seeing here, is coffee plant or coffee tree? Which is it? Is it a plant or is it a tree? So we can go down that path as well. You can see in here that once we start to include images, we can actually look at the alt text as well, and we can add links out to authoritative sources. So that way, we're basically not only showing the reader that we did our research and we're not copying, we're citing information that we're getting, we're citing the information, and it is sort of used as a sense of authority, and it's good just for general link health as well. You also want to include internal linking, but that depends on how much content you have on the site. So that usually comes into play in the middle of the article or at the very end. The last thing you can do is download an extended recommendations from the SEO content template. Basically what that does is it just adds a little bit more into here. So once we're done, you'll eventually get a score for readability, originality, and tone of voice. But that's essentially how you want to create content. You obviously don't have to use SEMRush for this, but it's best if you do use a tool like this. There's other tools like ClearScope or things of that nature that are a little bit less robust, but they do have this simple functionality where you can see if you're using your recommended keywords. But ultimately, what is the most important aspect is creating the original content and then tracking it, whether or not it's working for your clients. Is it driving organic traffic? And then once you drive that organic traffic, how are you capturing it and turning it into revenue? Even if you bring 10,000 new visitors to someone's site, if nobody purchases, is it really worth that much to the client? So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a note in the comments. Thanks.